Welcome, everyone, to Brian Lehrer Live, where web video meets the issues. Tonight, we question the MySpace suicide conviction. Is it right to prosecute for computer fraud when the hurtful transgression is bullying like this?
It's like garbage, and he almost puked. He says you're the most desperate girl he knows, besides your mom.
Mean girls, right? Also tonight, we'll tell you about Blackbird, an internet browser for African Americans, plus the selling of the Senate, the latest on Obama's valuable empty seat, too valuable. But first, here are this week's online video picks, a chorus of topical music videos on the web this week. Number one, inspired by the bailout bill for the big three automakers. Notice how there is no bailout for you. So who are you going to call? Arlo Guthrie.
Oh, the price of gold is rising out of sight, and the dollar is in sorry shape tonight. What the dollar used to get us now won't buy a head of lettuce. No, the economic forecast isn't right. But amidst the clouds I spot a shining ray. I can even glimpse a new and better way. And I've devised a plan of action, worked it down to the last fraction. And I'm going into action here today. I am changing my name to Chrysler. I am going down to Washington, D.C. I will tell some power broker what they did. Go will be perfectly acceptable to me. I am changing my name to Chrysler. I am heading for that great receiving line. So when they hand $1 million grand out, I'll be standing with my hand out. Yes, sir, I'll get mine. When my creditors are screaming for their dough, I'll be proud to tell them all where they can go. They won't have to scream and holler. They'll be paid to the last dollar, where the endless streams of money seem to flow.
So that was sung by Arlo Guthrie, but that song, I'm Changing My Name to Chrysler, was originally written by Tom Paxton for the 1979 Chrysler bailout. Now, the events of this year have also brought Paxton, who's now 71, to YouTube with an update.
Everybody and his uncle is in debt, and the bankers and the brokers are upset. Goldman Sachs' Merrill Lynch's saw themselves as lead pipes inches. Now they've landed in the biggest screw-up yet. Lehman Brothers and Bear Stearns and all their kind have turned out to be the blind leading the blind. They are clearly the nitwittest at survival of the fittest. Let me modestly say what I have in mind. I am changing my name to Fannie Mae. I am changing it to AIG. On this bailout I am betting just a piece of what they're getting would be perfectly acceptable to me. I am changing my name to Freddie Mac. I am leaving for that great receiving line. I'll be waiting when they hand out 700 million grand out. That's when I'll get mine.
Tom Paxton, circa 2008. Of course, not all Fannies want to merge with Freddies. The website Funny or Die offers a musical here for that thought, inspired by Election Day in California.
It's a brand new bright Obama day. What a time to be black, a girl, or gay. No, nothing could go wrong. So join us in this song of happy days for the gays. Nothing can go wrong.
Look, nobody's watching. It's time to spread some hate and put it in the Constitution.
Now, how?
Proposition 8.
Proposition 8. It's right. People listen to our plea. They'll teach kids about
sodomy.
Sodomy. School. That wasn't right. That's a lie.
But it works, so we don't care.
Now you wish we'd all shut up,
But make our clothes and fix our hair.
and our love's not a sin.
Well, the Bible says it's so.
Well, the Bible says a lot of things, you know?
Jesus Christ!
Hey, how's it going?
Jesus, doesn't the Bible say these people are an abomination?
Abomination!
Yeah, but you know, it says the exact same thing about this shrimp cocktail.
Shrimp cocktail!
Leviticus says shellfish is an abomination.
Abomination!
What else does the Bible say, Jesus?
The Bible says a lot of interesting things. Like you can stone your wife or sell your daughter into slavery.
Well, we ignore those verses.
Well then, friend, it seems to me you pick and choose.
Pick and choose.
Well, please choose love instead of hate. Besides, your nation was built on separation of church and state. See you later, sinners.
Bye, Jesus.
Goodbye, Jesus. Proposition 8, the musical From Funny or Die. Video pick number 4 is also a musical but not political. It's an invitation to participate online. If you can strum or bow or drum or blow, perhaps you'll audition for the YouTube Symphony Orchestra.
Hi, YouTube. This is Tandun. I'm very excited to bring the YouTube Symphony Orchestra to you.
Join us.
Join us. Join us.
Join us in creating the world's first collaborative online orchestra.
It's a wonderful opportunity to create, share, and perform new music, no matter what instrument you play.
Here's what you need to do. Participating is easy.
Go to the Prepare tab, download the sheet music, grab your instrument, and rehearse your part.
Practice it, and practice it, and practice it. Practice.
After you've practiced and you're ready to submit, and do your best. Record yourself playing, then submit that video to YouTube.
I'm very excited to write this piece for YouTube and you. So now I need you to help to play it.
This is such an exciting project for us because it's never been done before. It's global.
The best and bravest of you will be invited to a performance at Carnegie Hall under the direction of Michael Tilson Thomas.
Don't be intimidated.
Play with your heart and give it all you've got.
Really play with imagination and be yourself, because that's what's going to come across best of all.
Do it now. Upload those videos. Really want to see your playing.
Let me help you. Let's do it together.
And video pick number 5 this week is not musical, but it is a reprise. Barack Obama's transition people are using the web like the campaign did. At least in one way, his Office of Public Liaison is asking for decentralized individual input on how to bring about change. This is from the official transition website, change.gov.
Our role really is to open the doors of the transition and give people the opportunity to come in and talk to us. The Office of Public Liaison is really the entry point for all kinds of people and organizations and leaders outside of the transition to come into the transition. We're doing things differently. One, we're posting all the materials that come into us on change.gov. People can post materials, they can give commentary on the things that have been posted, they can offer their own ideas. We're actually looking through everything that's posted on our website. Having a seat at the table means that you have the opportunity to do two things. You know, if you think about a real table and a real meeting, one, you're there. You see what's happening. You see who's coming in. You see who they're meeting with. Also having a seat at the table, though, means you have an opportunity to respond to the things that other people are saying.
Sounds good, but it'll be interesting to see how the public fares against K Street lobbyists. And those are this week's online video picks. This is Brian Lehrer Live, where web video meets the issues. In the corruption derby, Illinois is pulling ahead of Louisiana and Alaska with a Senate seat for sale. Senate seat for sale, a governor hauled off to jail. And via Skype, Politico.com bloodhound Ben Smith joins us for the latest. Hi, Ben. Welcome to the show. Thanks for doing this tonight.
Thanks for having me on, Brian.
So, Ben, as I understand, the latest developments just this afternoon involve Congressman Jesse Jackson, Jr. What's happening?
Also known as Senate Candidate 5. The complaint against Blagojevich made a lot of people look bad, mostly his close aides, anybody really who's anywhere near the state of Illinois, but particularly a specific unnamed Senate candidate who had allegedly, or who had, according to Blagojevich in these tape recordings, through an intermediary, offered to raise something like $500,000 for Blagojevich in exchange for the seat. Blagojevich is on tape discussing whether he's going to get any of this up front, whether the guy can come through with the money, things like this. And Jesse Jackson Jr., I think it was reported this morning that Jesse Jackson Jr. was Senate candidate 5, and he today kind of denied that he'd done anything wrong, said that basically that this was all Blagojevich's fantasy.
Would that be a crime? Because I understand that the U.S. Attorney said that Jesse Jackson Jr. is not a target of the investigation. Let's say, for the sake of argument, that his people did agree to try to raise $500,000. I guess that would be in campaign funds for Blagojevich. Is that the kind of deal that does get made sometimes in the routine course of politics, or not?
That's what's interesting about this. Under Patrick Fitzgerald's reading, that would be a crime. That would be, offering some specific political goods, cash in exchange for this public, this thing that isn't Blagojevich's to sell, this Senate seat. But as you suggest, it's the sort of thing that with a wink and a nod, maybe not with the exact kind of crude discussion that Blagojevich goes through in the negotiation and the auction, but it's the kind of thing that happens all the time. And in fact, that struck me as the weakest of the charges against Blagojevich, and the stuff about, holding up money for a hospital until he got a check struck me as much more, straightforwardly criminal.
In fact, I couldn't help but think of some of the parallels going on in New York State right now, and you cover national politics these days, but you used to cover New York State politics. We have that so-called Gang of Three in the state Senate who basically held up the Senate Majority Leader-to-be, apparently Democrat Malcolm Smith of Queens. If they didn't get certain things, they wouldn't vote for him for Majority Leader. And some of those things were positions that come with money, like head of the Senate Finance Committee for one of these Democrats, which comes with an extra stipend of, is it $20,000, something like that?
Yeah, $12,000. So,
why is that legal?
I think an aggressive prosecutor could probably indict people. I think that's sort of the thing where the line between politics and crime can sometimes be fuzzy, and I've had people today say, Fitzgerald is criminalizing politics, and that's what they always say when this sort of thing happens. And it's and I think you could imagine a U.S. attorney going after them for that.
So the first blush made Obama look squeaky clean, because Blagojevich himself was caught on tape calling him an expletive.
This is cable, right? You can say it.
Well, I can say it. I'll choose not to. Let's say it has the initials MF, and called him that for only offering appreciation for appointing the Senate candidate of his choice, of Obama's choice. And
F him.
What?
I said, yeah, he's only offering me appreciation, so F him.
So F him. Yeah. Now, there is still an outstanding question, though, of who on Obama's transition team did Blagojevich's people actually speak to try to extort a bribe? And so, do we have an answer to that question?
We don't. Obama's team is refusing to answer really any questions at all about this, which doesn't, I think the excuse is that there's an ongoing investigation, but that's just sort of what people say when they don't want to talk about these things, because, at other times everybody's happy to talk about ongoing investigations. So, I think Obama's very inner circle, Rahm Emanuel, David Axelrod, and Valerie Jarrett, are people who are very plugged into this world. And if I knew 2 weeks ago that Blagojevich was considering Valerie Jarrett, she sure knew. And so the question is, it's very hard to believe that she didn't know what Blagojevich was doing around the offer of a Senate seat to her. And the question is, in how much detail did they speak? Did he speak to her directly? She very abruptly pulled herself out of the running for that Senate seat, and you have to wonder if there was a reason for that.
You wonder also, I wonder if Obama's people may have even been the one to blow the whistle to the U.S. attorney about these approaches to them that would have been illegal. Do you think that might have been the case?
There was a Chicago TV report saying that Rahm Emanuel had dropped the dime. He denied it. It's hard to know. The thing is, everybody knew that Blagojevich phones were tapped by the FBI. He's been under investigation for years. It was in the Chicago Sun-Times 2 weeks ago, the specific guy, the name of the guy who was wearing a wire when he talked to Blagojevich. So, and in some of these recorded calls, it sounds to me like you can tell the guy knows he's being recorded. Andy Stern is saying, well, we'll run that up the flagpole, sir. I mean, it's very non-committal. So
if there were ongoing investigations by the FBI of Governor Blagojevich for years, and they presumably, led him to know that he was being wiretapped, he's either delusional or just unbelievably brazen to have had these kinds of conversations, calling Obama names, telling people what he's allegedly offering others. How could he have been so dumb?
He is clearly out of touch with reality in a really profound way. I mean, on the other end of the scale, he's also talking about running for president in 2016 on those tapes. I mean, this is not a guy with his sort of hand firmly on the tiller.
Last thing, how close have Obama and Blagojevich been? Obama did work for his first election campaign, I understand, for the governors in 2002, and then at least publicly supported him for re-election in 2006 when some of the earlier parts of these investigations would have been underway. And this is Chicago Democratic politics. How intertwined are these guys?
Not that intertwined. I mean, basically, the way to see Chicago and Obama is that Obama, they're like, there's a very strong machine, there's a very weak reform movement, and Obama's sort of like Switzerland. I mean, he kind of made his peace with the machine. They saw his potential and didn't dirty him up too much, gave him some free passes. He certainly made his peace with them, but he was not as intertwined as some.
I've heard Obama call many things, but never before Switzerland. Ben Smith from Politico.com. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
It's Brian Lehrer Live, where web video meets the issues. Next up, the MySpace suicide conviction. Justice and freedom collide online in a minute.
We're at a crucial stage with energy usage. Prices are just too high. We need to cut consumption, and we need alternatives. That's what drove us to attempt the first static electricity-powered home. Static cells under the carpet collect energy and transfer it as needed throughout the house.
Faster! Faster! Water's getting cold!
Success has been elusive. It hasn't been everything we'd hoped. But besides making the house itself more energy efficient, the smartest thing we did, the bright spot, if you will, is that we equipped the house with Energy Star products, which use less juice and save money. Static electricity may not be viable, but hey, we've taken a step toward the future. Our future. Anyone can make their home more energy efficient.
Good night, sweetie.
Good night, Mommy.
This is CUNY TV, the City University of New York.
Ma, guess what? I went back to college. No, I didn't quit my job. I'm finishing my degree with a CUNY Online Bachelor's in Business. I interact online with real City University of New York faculty on a schedule that fits my busy life. Ma, you should look who's teaching at CUNY. And it all leads to a high-quality Bachelor of Science degree in business. I can attend class anywhere, anytime. Yes, Mom, even at your house Friday night for dinner.
The CUNY Online Baccalaureate. Get back to business.
This is Brian Lehrer Live, where web video meets the issues. It was a tragic case. Maybe you heard about it, maybe not. A Missouri teenager bullied on MySpace later kills herself. A neighbor who did the bullying with a phony MySpace account is convicted of computer fraud. Is the conviction a useful legal precedent? Is it bad for those of us who use social networking sites legitimately? Lawyer Nick Ackerman has a computer fraud practice. He favors the decision. He's with Dorsey and Whitney. Attorney Matthew L. Levine says it's dangerous on many counts. Welcome to both of you. Thank you very much for coming in. Mr. Ackerman, the transgression was bullying, but the crime was computer fraud. How do those two fit together?
Well, the crime, Brian, was actually computer fraud and abuse. It's a federal statute. I think one of the misconceptions here is that the computer fraud and abuse statute is really a hacking statute. In effect, it's actually a computer crime statute. It covers the whole panoply of criminal activity that's out there relating to the internet. So
and it must have been very broadly written because it was written in the 80s, right?
Well, it was first enacted in 1984. And since that time, Congress has amended it a number of times, at least 4 or 5 times, even as recently with the Patriot Act. So it's an extremely broad statute. It's been interpreted by the courts very broadly to really cover every type of computer crime that's out there. I mean, part of the problem is we're dealing with a moving target, that the criminals are staying as far ahead as they can and as far as technology will take them. And so it's very important that there be a statute that can be used to combat this problem.
This case troubles you. Tell us why.
Sure. And I think that a focus on the original purpose of the law is important because there is a good deal of language when Congress was coming up with this law that indicates that they really were aiming at hacking, at the electronic equivalent of trespassing. And that's really where the trouble comes here because where you have a case prosecuted based on going to a website and using the website in violation of the terms of service of that website.
So they violated the terms of service of MySpace. The crime was not being mean online in a way that resulted in somebody's suicide. The crime was violating the terms of the agreement on how to use MySpace?
That's right. What Lori Drew was convicted of was obtaining access to this website without authorization. And the way that the government presented the case was to say you didn't have authorization because you violated the terms of service of the website. An interesting subpoint is whether she ever even knew what those were. But even assuming that she did, they've essentially said anybody who goes to a website and violates its terms of service knowingly is now a criminal, a federal criminal. You're guilty of a misdemeanor so long as the transmission between your computer and the computer where the server is hosting the website is in another state.
This conviction was only a misdemeanor?
This conviction was a misdemeanor. The jury did not convict her of the higher grade felony, which if they had found that the reason she obtained this information from the website, and what happened here was she obtained information, or using a co-conspirator, as the government said, obtained information about the young girl who hanged herself and did it to further a state tort or state crime, but a civil crime, that of harassment.
Would have been a felony.
That would have been a felony.
So why do you have a problem with this? All they prosecuted or got her for was a misdemeanor for violating the terms of use of MySpace. What's wrong with that?
Then we're probably all misdemeanors, federal misdemeanors here, for those of us who have read the terms of service and knowingly violated them.
With what effects on free speech or democracy? Some?
Absolutely. One of the grounds that was asserted to dismiss the case by the defense was a First Amendment claim, and that was based on the fact that one of the things that the government charged her with doing was being anonymous or hiding her identity. And one of the things that's very important these days is the ability to speak anonymously. That's important to the web. It's important for young kids who use the web. They're actually told to do that.
Do you think that this sets a precedent against being anonymous online, against that being a crime?
Being anonymous, absolutely not. Committing certain acts, as Lori Drew did here, I mean, let's back up and look at the terms of service that she violated. First of all, she was supposed to give real information in terms of signing up for the account. She also was told by MySpace that she was not to harass or go after anybody on the web. She was also told that she was not to communicate with individuals under 18 years old or harass individuals under 18 years old.
That's in the standard boilerplate MySpace agreement.
That's right, but there's a reason for that. It's because people can be anonymous, and that there's a concern about protecting children on the internet. In terms of what she did, and in terms of the statute, it was right on the money. The statute itself is based on unauthorized use. I mean, Matt is correct when he says it's basically patterned after the trespass statute. That is, people put up a no trespass sign on their property, and the government will enforce that with criminal action. Here, what we've got is a situation that's really no different than going into a public place like Walmart. The difference being that when you go on the internet, you can do everything anonymously. You go into Walmart, if Lori Drew had followed the young girl around the store and had harassed her. And
so if MySpace wants to set it up itself up as a no anonymity space, it has that right, is what you're saying.
It has a right to set up certain rules in order to protect the public and to protect itself. Yeah. Now, look, I mean, I think the real problem that's being raised here is kind of coming up with this whole parade of horribles that might result from the use of this statute. If you go back to the early 70s, this is the same issue that came up with the mail fraud and wire fraud statutes. People were saying it's too broad, it's going to be used improperly. In fact, you could come up with a hypothetical where a kid in a college could call home to his father, say, look, send me $200 so I can buy books, when he really intended to use the money to buy beer, and he'd be committing a violation of the mail or wire fraud statute.
But you're saying nobody will prosecute that in real life. Now, online bullying has become enough of a problem that the National Crime Prevention Council has made this video helping to stop it.
Hi, guys. Hey. Hi, Megan. Hey, Jessica. Megan, you're a tramp. Brian Fitch told me you guys made out. Everybody knows. He said your breath smells like garbage, and he almost puked. He says you're the most desperate girl he knows, besides your mom. How many boyfriends does she have anyway? Lots? Your makeup makes you look like a clown. That zit is huge, zit face. Ugly.
If you wouldn't say it in person, why would you say it online? Delete cyberbullying if you saw the text. What about a statute, a law against cyberbullying? Would you support that?
I might, and there actually has been one introduced by Representative Linda Sanchez of California, which makes using a computer in an interstate fashion to commit, I believe it's repeated, hostile, and severe conduct would constitute cyberbullying. There is some question, I think, and I'm not a First Amendment expert, there is some question whether that would survive First Amendment scrutiny.
Is there any law against face-to-face bullying? I mean, there's a certain point where behavior becomes harassment under the law face-to-face, right?
Sure, and virtually every state has a statute that prohibits harassment, and it's not a very precise standard, but it's one that is well established. And so,
could this case, in your opinion, have been prosecuted under something like that?
I think so. I think even though the district attorney in Missouri declined to prosecute it after reviewing the evidence, after I saw it come out of the trial, it certainly was a case he could have taken to trial and put in the hands of a jury.
Now, one curious thing about this case is that the incident took place in Missouri, but it was prosecuted by a prosecutor in California who decided to pick it up. Why was that?
Well, you had venue in both places. I mean, under the criminal federal statute, you could have prosecuted it in Missouri, or you could have prosecuted it in Los Angeles, where MySpace is located.
Because MySpace, the girls, the harassers,
right,
and the girl who killed herself were using it in Missouri.
That's right, but that goes for any...
But MySpace's business is located in California.
That's right.
So, is that, I mean, that seems a little weird.
Well,
was it just an aggressive prosecutor, or maybe a grandstanding prosecutor who decided to, help make his name?
No, I don't think so at all. I mean, look, they could have, just with the mail or wire fraud statute, you can prosecute the person where they deposited the mail, or you could prosecute the person where the mail showed up, or you could, the same with the wire, the interstate wire. I mean, you can do it either way. I mean, it happens all the time. There's nothing unusual about it.
Why didn't the Missouri prosecutor go after it?
No idea. I mean, there's really no good reason why they wouldn't. On the other hand, for whatever reason, the LA prosecutor decided to do it. Look, MySpace has a very significant interest in making sure that this type of activity doesn't occur on the internet. It doesn't occur with its website. And it may just be that as one of, in a sense, a victim of this crime, that they went to the U.S. Attorney's Office in Los Angeles and asked that it be prosecuted.
Can I follow up on that 1 second? Mm-hmm. I think Nick's comment sort of points out what you really have here, which is that you have somebody who sets the terms of service for a website and says what they are, and then you have one prosecutor, and really between those two people, they are the ones who are setting the standard of criminal conduct here. And if you toy around on terms of service, there can be some really wild and outrageous and arbitrary terms of service. And if you're going to be prosecuted for a misdemeanor that you can go to jail for a year for violating some arbitrary standard, that's really a problem, and that may very well be unconstitutional.
Your practice is generally based around computer fraud and abuse. What's happening in the field? What kinds of cases are people bringing right now?
Well, I think one of the big issues here has to do with theft of data from companies. A lot of this goes to just the economic well-being of this country, that we've got intellectual property that's being stolen. In the old days, it used to be that somebody would have to come in and take material out in boxes and move it out in trucks. Today, with a couple of mouse clicks, you can send very highly classified intellectual property all over the world.
So wait, are you one of those people on behalf of the record companies going after teenagers who share music files?
No, not that. I'm really one of those people on behalf of certain major companies that have very valuable confidential information that's being sent to competitors and going outside of this country and trying to retrieve it. The other big problem that we're seeing out there is that you've got a lot of viruses and malware that's being sent into this country from Eastern Europe and the Far East that is going on to business computers. I've got a client who had this problem where essentially they were able to determine all of the keystrokes that led to their banking information. And my client found that the next day $200,000 in a wire had gone out of their account that they didn't expect. And it was because when they first got this email, they didn't realize that it contained the malware that infected their computer system.
What can you do?
You've got to be extremely vigilant. You've got to make sure that your employees don't open emails that look at all suspicious. You've got to make sure that you've got good security in place with respect to your system. There's a lot. I mean, you really...
Those are defensive measures because it's hard to go after these perps if they're on some server 1,500 miles from Beijing or something
exactly.
like that,
I mean,
right?
even the criminal authorities are having problems doing that. I mean, the government is trying to deal with this. We just had the passage of this IP Act in October of this past year. There's going to be an IP czar that's going to be appointed by the president at some point to try and organize this entire issue relating to the theft of intellectual property from this country. But you're right. I mean, you can't bring a civil lawsuit very easily, and you can't bring a criminal prosecution very easily in those situations. So, I mean, computer crime is a growing business. There's no question about it.
We're going to have a car czar. We're going to have an intellectual property czar. It's going to be czarist America.
We're going back to Imperial Russia, basically.
There you go. How much is your practice built around these kinds of cases?
Yes, very much so. And I think that you're seeing these problems happening, and you're seeing finally the courts catching up with it. There has been an enhanced emphasis by the Federal Justice Department on computer crimes. They've got a solid section that does that now. There was a recent case in Atlanta for a woman who stole trade secrets from Coke, her employer, and tried to sell them to Pepsi. And that case was notable to me because she got a very severe sentence for this kind of crime. She got an 8-year sentence, where typically we might be 1 to 1.5 years. And that, to me, said finally the courts are catching up with the seriousness of the theft of intellectual property.
So the two of you agree on a lot of the big picture stuff, it sounds like, but disagree on this case. Yes?
I think that's right.
That's fair.
Well, let's leave it at that point of common ground. Thank you both very much.
Okay, thank you.
It's Brian Lehrer Live, where web video meets the issues. Next up, do African Americans need a black-oriented web browser? Also, a goodbye to Odetta. Stay with us.
How far would you go to help someone? Would you go to the end of your driveway? Would you cross a street? Would you cross an ocean? To a place 6,000 miles from home? And how long would you go? Would you go for a week? A month? A year? Would you go for 2 years? Would you go if you could use your knowledge to teach someone, and in the process, maybe learn something yourself? Life is calling. How far will you go? Peace Corps.
This is CUNY TV, the City University of New York.
what? I went back to college. No, I didn't quit my job. I'm finishing my degree with a CUNY Online Bachelor's in Business. I interact online with real City University of New York faculty on a schedule that fits my busy life. Ma, you should look who's teaching at CUNY. And it all leads to a high-quality Bachelor of Science degree in business. I can attend class anywhere, anytime. Yes, Mom, even at your house Friday night for dinner.
The CUNY Online Baccalaureate. Get back to business.
This is Brian Lehrer Live, where web video meets the issues. You probably use Internet Explorer, Safari, or Firefox as your internet browser. But have you ever heard of Blackbird? It's especially designed with African Americans in mind to help people find black-oriented content and find each other. Is it a good idea? Will it catch on? With us is Ed Young, Blackbird's co-founder. Joining us as well, internet entrepreneur Hank Williams, who has been here before. He's from cloudshare.com. And via Skype, we'll talk to Angela Benton, the founder of Black Web 2.0, coming up in a few minutes. Ed, what is Blackbird?
Blackbird is, for lack of a better term, the African American browser, or the black browser. And it's not only for black people, it's for anybody who's interested in a web experience that is more broad than just the mainstream content that's there. It acts as a regular browser, so you get all of the web as you would get it with Firefox or Internet Explorer, plus a click or two away is content that you wouldn't otherwise find easily.
We'll show some screenshots in a minute from the web, but why do you need a browser for this? Maybe a particular search engine that's oriented in certain ways,
yes,
or just content that's, you know, well indexed and easy to find. Why do you need an actual browser to get to this kind of content?
I don't know that we could say that you need one. You don't need one. If you're very savvy, tech savvy, and you're willing to spend the time.
You know how to Google and enter good search terms.
You know how to
right?
Google, you know how to enter search terms. But remember, one of the problems with finding stuff that has a black focus is black is a poor term to explain what we call black people. It's a color. So you put black in, and you get, if you put black search in, for instance, you get a search engine that has a black background. You don't get it so that it means black people. And if you put black people, you get illustrated art about people colored black or things like that. It's very inexact. And African American, the same thing. You put African American in because it's such a terrible way of describing what we call black people in many ways, because we have Caribbean American, we have just South American blacks, we have so many. We're not monolithic, and so it's hard to find black content on the web.
All right, let's take a look at some Blackbird views. Tell us what we're looking at here.
This is the home page. That's our current home page. That is actually changing shortly. But that's the browser. This is the video page. We have a video button up in what we call the services bar. There's email, social networks, share, and most shared, which is a social bookmarking function. And we have video, which is a Blackbird TV, which we have channels from different content providers. And we also have a give back button, which is not give back to Blackbird and my company. It's give back to, we have a partnership with a charitable aggregator called Good Together, and we have a Do Good channel where it takes you to charities that are servicing the community, the black community and the American community and the world community as a whole.
Let's go to another page.
Okay, that's the Do Good channel.
The Do Good channel.
I do not know who the cute little girl is. That's a promotional picture, but hopefully somebody's helping her do things.
It's always a good tool to raise money to put a cute child in the picture.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I think we have one more here. Let's take a look. Ars Technica.
That is showing the social network functionality and a blatant self-promotion from the article we had in Ars Technica, which was quite favorable.
Oh, that was an article.
Yes, it was
about Blackbird.
Yes, it was.
And so you say social.
That sidebar right there is a Facebook listing of someone's friends. We've shifted it over a little bit so that you don't see their friends' faces, and we didn't get releases from them.
So what do you find people are actually using it for so far?
We don't know. We just prematurely launched on Monday.
prematurely launched?
Prematurely launched. I had sent the announcement out to a couple of close friends and some family. And I guess I forgot how influential my friends and family can be. And the next thing I knew, Monday morning, I sent out the announcement Friday. Monday morning, I woke up and we were the lead story in TechCrunch, which is a very influential tech blog. And so it just started then. So we've only been up for 2.5 days.
So, Hank Williams, web entrepreneur, have you used Blackbird yet?
Yes, I used it for the first time this morning. And what's interesting to me about it is that it's not, I don't really feel like, despite the fact that he's calling it the black browser, but that to me what's interesting about it is it's a really great tool for helping you find content of a particular type. One of the problems with browsers historically has been that bookmarks are just, they don't work very well. You can't, the browser does not do a good job as a tool in helping you find context, and in helping you find content of a particular interest, or even helping you find the things that you found before. Bookmarks just don't work very well. So to me, what's interesting about it is that you can, with this tool helps you as a browser find content of a particular type. I don't know that I'm personally particularly enthusiastic about the idea of it being called a black browser.
Do you think it has some downsides in a social or even in a way political sense?
Well, you know, it certainly brought out the bad in an awful lot of people. I mean, TechCrunch, the article was reasonable enough, but the commentary was really quite disheartening, and so that's certainly a downside that one has to consider when marketing something.
What do you mean the commentary was disheartening?
There were a lot of people saying, accusing them of being racist, or saying, you know, just really nasty racial commentary.
Segregationist.
Yeah.
You're a separatist now.
I'm a separatist, segregationist. I mean, it's been shocking. I think I may have been a bit naive because I've lived my life around a diverse group of people, and one of the things that's been wonderful for me is I've known many different cultures, colors, and things like that, and it's made my life richer. And, you know, I teach my son to just look at people, but don't not recognize their differences, enjoy those differences, and learn from them. You have a friend who's from a different culture, know that. And so to be called a racist or a separatist, my friends are losing their minds over that. They're trying to go in the blogs and they're angry at people. I'm like, no, don't do that.
I guess in a way it plays, I mean, it might play into, you know, white people's misunderstandings and
well, a lot
historical
of people say,
mistrust.
If I made White Bird or White Dove, would that be okay?
Right.
And honestly, it would. I don't think it would be a great idea necessarily. And
probably wouldn't be the moral equivalent given the majority of society is white.
Actually, that's not necessarily true. White Bird or White Dove, if you really are getting into how we built Blackbird, would be Internet Explorer or Firefox. But
not through an intent to be white.
No, but it's not that the intent for us is to pull out and add to the existing base content that is of interest to an interest group. Whitebird, if you're looking at it that way, would say, well, if white is the majority of the country or whatever, you know, that's a fact.
Let me bring Angela Benton into this conversation. Angela is joining us via Skype, and she is the founder of something called Black Web 2.0. Hi, Angela. Welcome to the program, and tell us about Black Web 2.0.
Hi. Thanks for having me. Well, Black Web 2.0 is essentially a technology blog. We started a little over a year ago. And I guess to put it simply, we are like a TechCrunch, except we cover news as it surrounds the African American or Black media or web industry.
And what do you look for before linking to a project, to a product?
There's no certain criteria that we look for, and I mean, similar to Blackbird and other niche sites, we're not exclusive, we're inclusive, so we cover general web apps as well. In fact, we just covered like a task list that's in Gmail now. So we cover services that we think that are useful to our readers. But in addition, we also like to highlight people who are African American who work in the web industry, either in a corporate environment or as an entrepreneur.
And yours is a website. It's not a browser or a search engine, correct?
No, it is. It's a website. It's a blog. So it's web content.
What did you think about the discussion that they were having about the social utility of Blackbird?
Blackbird is definitely an interesting concept, and honestly, I guess it's been about all anyone can talk about for the past couple of days since it's launched. Primarily just because the reaction, while it was typical, I mean, I think many of us expected it. To me, it was a little on the extreme, especially as far as the comments go on TechCrunch, and for it to be called, you know, segregist and racist is just completely false and untrue. There are other niche browsers and niche content sites that focus on specific niches, and those aren't sexist or segregist or separatist at all.
They don't get that tag. Ed, I wonder if this plays into a larger fear that people have about community on the web and the way the media is going right now. That, you know, to some degree this is a myth, but that there once upon a time was in America that was unified by having only 3 major networks on television, and everybody sat and watched the moon landing together and all that stuff. And now we have people dividing up into different little political echo chambers so that we only talk to people like us, and it does wind up segregating in all kinds of ways, and maybe this feeds that anxiety.
Well, what's fascinating is that the emails that I get, most of them, and I actually have been writing back to people, and I've gotten many apologies, and because I tell them who I am. I say, this is why we did this, and they don't really think about the fact that this is really expansive. They think that it seems like they think that we have a firewall built into the browser that blocks you out from getting to anything other than black media, and we don't do that. And they think that when they download it, it does a skin color check, and if you're not some hue of brown, it doesn't load up on your computer. We didn't put that technology in on purpose. So, you know, it's for everybody. It's for somebody who is whatever. If you're purple and you want to get an extra part of the web, but the people who are complaining very loudly are the ones who aren't saying that the web's getting segregated. They're saying the web is this wonderful colorblind world. Why are you messing that up?
Is the web really this wonderful colorblind world?
Oh, I could talk quite a bit about that, but no. What's interesting is that the web is the most, I guess I could almost say, honest part of who we really are. People say things that they would never say to other people. They do things that they would never do. So the web is us, and in the same sense that we have black organizations, women organizations, gay organizations, people that like football. There's nothing wrong with people gathering by either social or economic or on any basis. But people take, for some reason, and take particular offense at the idea when black people decide that they're going to gather, or when something is black specific. And I could venture a guess as to why that is, but I'll leave that for the imagination.
I'm sensing your well, go ahead, Ed.
Well, I mean, I think you're exactly right. One of the things, though, there are many black people who have expressed a concern about Blackbird because they think that, yet again, we're separating. And I explained to them, no, this is expanding, because it's not only for black people. The majority of people who use it will be black, but wow, just imagine if other people who were interested in what's going on in black media and what's going on in this other place, we're able to learn about how you're thinking.
Angela, there is a search engine that's also black content oriented called Rushmore Drive. I gather you're familiar with it enough to tell us who does the filtering and how that's organized, yes?
Absolutely. Actually, in addition to Black Web 2.0, I actually work at Rushmore Drive, and my role there is I lead creative and digital strategy. So Rushmore Drive is actually a site that is a part of IAC, Interactive Corp, which is based there in New York, and they're responsible for sites like LendingTree and Expedia and Ticketmaster. So, you know, they're a huge conglomerate. Another one of the sites there is Ask. So Rushmore Drive is based off the Teoma technology that Ask.com is built off of.
How are any of you going to make any money off these things? I mean, we're seeing old media either go out of business or go into bankruptcy like the Tribune Company, or one thing or another left and right. And yet, all these internet startups are having trouble. I mean, some aren't. Google isn't. But, you know, many, many are finding the business model that makes it profitable enough to actually sustain a lot of meaningful content. Can this make money? Is
Yes,
that the point?
We're going to declare ourselves a bank or an automaker and get a bailout.
Right
I'm
away.
just kidding.
We'll be the first company in your first week to
We're the
apply
first
for a
internet company to become an automobile. Exactly. No, we make money. The plan is, you know, this is the silly thing about the internet. I've been in traditional business. Also, I was a publisher. I did publishing. I've done some other things. In the internet, we're looking at, we have search advertising that we do because we have a built-in search toolbar. I didn't show that in the screenshot, but we have and our search is based on a search methodology that is different from Rushmore Drive. They actually seem to complement one another in a very interesting way. I think if you wanted the richest search experience you could have, you would do our search, Rushmore Drive search, and a regular Google search. And you'd get the full range of the web relative to adding African American or black content to it. You'd have to do other things for other interest groups. But we also have in that sidebar that I showed you with the Facebook listing, not in that part, but we have the social bookmarking part where the sidebar pops out. There's advertising opportunity there.
So it's an advertising
right, and we have sponsorship
business
ideas.
model. What about Rushmore Drive or Black Web 2.0, Angela?
Well, Rushmore Drive's business model, we actually have about three, I guess, pillars to what we do. And not only do we offer original content, we also aggregate content. And search is kind of at the helm of everything. We also have a jobs and a jobs networking section to our site. So there's a variety of ways we can monetize it that, you know, we're currently exploring. As far as Black Web 2.0 goes, Black Web 2.0 is a blog, and we do, I mean, we are very niche. We're very specific. We are for, you know, people who are extremely tech savvy, to be quite honest. So, I mean, we have hurdles. Part of the hurdles have been actually getting advertisers. Though as of late, we've actually been quite lucky, and people are contacting us just because I think all of the developments that are going on within the African American technology industry or niche industry.
I think the jobs search section is going to be very popular in the coming months, and hopefully not for too long. So, Hank, I get the feeling that you're kind of ambivalent here, that you don't love the idea of this race-specific search engine browser movement. You don't think you're going to use it very much because you want to be able to look beyond that. But you're also not in love with the overreaction that people are having to this in comparison to other sort of content-specific or group-specific sites. Am I reading you right?
I think that's accurate, but I would say I really like the technology concept of the browser because I think that it solves a problem. The sort of bookmarking, what I really call what they've done is really a great bookmark aggregator. And I think that that's a really serious problem, and I just don't think that it needs to be black specific. And but And so that's really my primary issue.
You can apply it to other things. And
yes,
we have 15 seconds for a last word from you.
Well, to build on what Hank just said, is that this is a browser that could stand on its own. We just started with it being black focused. It has email integrated, social networks integrated.
That's where you're going to make your money. If you can sell the app to others, right?
Wow.
Or maybe some of your money.
To be continued.
Okay, to be continued. All three of you, thank you all very much for joining us. And finally tonight, let's take a moment to say goodbye to Odetta Holmes. She was more than a singer, songwriter, and actress. She was the voice, in a way, of the civil rights movement. Odetta hoped to sing at Barack Obama's inauguration, not to be. Click on YouTube and you will find Odetta still singing. That final clip, as you might have been able to tell, here in New York, and Odetta died of heart disease on December 2nd here in New York. And that's it for tonight's show. We are here live Wednesday nights at 7:30, but anytime at brianlehrer.tv. Next week, how Obama's New Deal could build a park in New York. And join me for my daily radio show, weekday mornings at 10 on WNYC Radio. Tomorrow morning, a cantor from Mumbai on being both Indian and Jewish. That's on AM 820 and 93.9 FM WNYC tomorrow morning at 10. Have a great night.